Good afternoon, and welcome to the June 2016 Finance Committee meeting. We're here in beautiful downtown Albany. First up on the agenda is the adoption of the meeting minutes from the May meeting that was held in New York, and they're behind tab 3. Can I please get a motion to accept those meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. We'll be reviewing 3 resolutions today. We're going to take one out of order. We're going to first jump to New York Institute of Technology. That's behind tab 6, and Dave will present. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The Finance Committee is being asked to recommend to the full board one or more series of tax-exempt and/or taxable fixed or variable rate bonds in an amount not to exceed $55 million on behalf of New York Institute of Technology, or NYIT. This will be NYIT's first issuance through DASNY since 1967. So by way of background, NYIT operates 2 primary campuses in the metropolitan New York area. Their main campus in Old Westbury in Nassau County, as well as a campus in Manhattan at 61st Street and Broadway. They also operate programs in Canada, China, and the United Arab Emirates. Bond proceeds will be used to refinance all or a portion of NYIT Series 2000 bonds issued by the Nassau County Industrial Development Agency, as well as all or a portion of their Series 2000A bonds that were issued by the Suffolk County IDA. Although we're asking the board for this resolution to proceed for both tax-exempt and/or taxable bonds, it's anticipated at this point that all of the Series 2016 bonds will be issued as taxable. There's really 2 reasons there. The Series 2000 IDA bonds were previously advance refunded and would not be eligible for a second advance refunding using tax-exempt proceeds due to tax law limitations. The second reason is really for flexibility. The taxable bonds will offer the Institute some additional flexibility with regard to the use of the facilities that were financed with tax-exempt proceeds from the 2000 and the 2008 bonds. Assuming current market conditions, the total net present value savings in the range of $1.4 million is expected to be achieved through the proposed issuance. In addition to these savings, the proposed issuance will benefit NYIT by reducing its long-term debt by approximately $11.2 million and allowing the Institute to shorten the final maturity of the bonds by 2 years without increasing annual debt service. NYIT is currently rated Baa2 by Moody's and BBB+ by S&P. Accordingly, the Institute qualifies for an unenhanced borrowing under DASNY's current financing guidelines. In accordance with these guidelines, payment of debt service on the bonds will be secured by a pledge of revenues of the Institute and a mortgage on real estate acceptable to DASNY. Additionally, financial covenants will be required. A debt service reserve fund will not be required for this financing. When you look at the credit quality of NYIT, the diversity of their programs is something that really stands out, as well as the student population that the Institute draws. The Institute currently offers undergraduate, graduate, and professional degrees in more than 50 fields of study, which range from architecture to education to health professions. And through these programs, NYIT attracts a very large contingent of international students across both its New York campus as well as its international sites. So when you look at total enrollment, international students account for approximately 30%. And when you look at just the New York campuses, 20% of that student population is international students. When looking at undergraduate enrollment trends, the Institute has experienced declining undergraduate enrollment in recent years, which is mainly due to competition for students at the New York campuses, as well as the closure of 2 of its international programs, one in Jordan and one in Bahrain, which accounted for approximately 1,500 FTEs. Looking at graduate enrollment, enrollment has improved in each of the last 3 years, with increased demand in both its business and engineering programs, as well as the health professions. Graduate enrollment also includes the Institute's medical school, the College of Osteopathic Medicine, which is one of the largest medical schools in the U.S. with over 1,200 students. And they've also recently announced that in August of 2016, they'll open a second site of its osteopathic medicine institute in the at Arkansas State University, which is expected to enroll 460 students once at full capacity. So it's these new programs, as well as the continued recruitment of international students, that will be key factors to growing enrollment at NYIT. Looking at operations, they have a history of very strong operations, posting operating surpluses in each of the last, or excuse me, in 4 of the last 5 years. And this is when you look at those margins, and considering the decrease in enrollment, management has done an excellent job actually controlling expenses to produce positive margins. And lastly, the Institute's debt service coverage levels for the past 5 years have been very strong, averaging 3 to 1 annually. Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that insightful presentation. Questions or concerns?
I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to ask David some questions, and I'm satisfied
Thank you.
that this is a financing that I will be able.
Thank you.
The questions I asked David had to do with the decreased undergraduate enrollment and their heavy dependency on tuition fees for revenue. But their graduate enrollment is increasing. I don't know if that's like dollar for dollar. They lost 100 undergraduate kids in their class in a year, in 5 years. I didn't check, I didn't count to see what their graduate numbers are up to in the 5-year period. But if the tuitions are the same and the numbers are close to being the same, then they're losing in one category and gaining in another. And I think that's the case. But I was very taken, and I wanted to do this for the record, with what you just pointed to, David, the diversity of programs there. I didn't know very much about NYIT until I saw this. And now I've been to the internet, frankly, and I took a look. They're a very interesting school.
They really are, yeah.
I would not be here today if it wasn't for that school, because I'm a graduate, 1982 graduate of New York Institute.
Is that right?
So,
All right.
I'll certainly endorse this financing. No. Anyway, any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, can I get a motion to recommend approval of this offering at tomorrow's board meeting?
Absolutely.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. That motion carries, and thank you very much. Thank you, David. Next, we're going to go back to tab 5, the Bank Street College of Education, and Steve is going to present. Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Finance Committee is being asked to recommend for approval by the full board fixed and/or variable rate bonds to be sold in a private placement in an amount not to exceed $25 million, with maturities not to exceed 30 years, on behalf of Bank Street College of Education. This will be Bank Street first DASNY financing. However, the college has issued 2 series of bonds through the New York City IDA, approximately $2.2 million of which is still outstanding in their Series 2002 bonds. And those outstanding IDA bonds are expected to be refinanced with the proposed bond issue. Bank Street was founded in 1916 and is located at 610 West 112th Street on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. The college is a nationally recognized leader in education of teachers and includes 3 main divisions: the Graduate School of Education, the Children's Programs, and the Division of Innovation, Policy, and Research. The college is an institution for higher education authorized to confer degrees by the Board of Regents of New York State. And an integral, unique component of Bank Street's graduate school education is its year-long supervised field work. Each student works 3 to 5 days a week in a setting appropriate to his or her program of study. And in 1954, the college began a full-scale elementary school, which gradually expanded to include children aged 3 through 14. Each elementary classroom has assistant teachers or student teachers that are current Bank Street graduate school students, allowing many of the graduate students to do their field work on site. Bank Street plans to use bond proceeds to renovate its 112th Street facility at a cost of approximately $14 million, and to make leasehold improvements to administrative office space that is expected to be leased at the Interfaith Center of New York at a cost of approximately $3 million. Bank Street also plans to refinance its Series 2002 IDA bonds. The refinancing is expected to result in net present value savings of approximately $350,000 or 16% of the bonds being refunded, and this will free up collateral to be used in connection with the proposed financing. The final maturity of the refunding bonds may exceed the final maturity of the bonds being refunded. The college will weigh this alternative if tax counsel determines there is additional useful life available for the assets financed with the proceeds of the Series 2002 bonds. The bonds are expected to be drawdown bonds sold through a private placement to Bank United N.A. The bonds are expected to have a 30-year maturity with an initial 15-year term with a fixed rate. The bank will have a put option after 15 years where it will have an option to require a mandatory tender. The college may choose to refinance or negotiate a renewal with the bank prior to the expiration of the 15-year term. The new money bonds are expected to pay interest only for the first 24 months, and the refunding will begin paying principal and interest immediately. Since this is a private placement, there will be no rating. Securities is expected to include a mortgage on the 112th Street building, a pledge of revenues, and financial covenants. Bank Street's two main programmatic divisions, as I mentioned, are the Graduate School of Education and the School for Children. Matriculation rates at each of these divisions are strong, averaging 70% at the graduate school and 58% at the School for Children over the past 4 years. Although there is strong matriculation, the graduate school's applications have declined 16% over the past 4 years, and newly enrolled students declined 9% over this time period, leading to a decline in FTE enrollment. The School for Children enrollment has been stable and traditionally operates at near capacity. Management plans to increase the School for Children enrollment by gradually adding additional class sections. Bank Street is dependent on net tuition revenue, which has been relatively flat over the past 5 years due to the decline in graduate enrollment. In 2015, 59% of revenues were from net tuition. The next largest revenue stream for the college is grants and contracts, which accounted for 24% of its 2015 revenues. Bank Street has had modest operating losses in each of the last 4 years, ranging from a negative 0.2% in 2014 to negative 2.7% in 2015. If you adjust the operating returns by adding back depreciation, the college shows gains in each year. The college is forecasting an unaudited operating profit of approximately $600,000 in fiscal year 2016. Management feels its efforts to stabilize graduate enrollment, expand the School for Children enrollment, and to increase grants and contract revenues will allow operations to grow going forward. The college has very little debt outstanding and has its net assets have increased by $7.6 million or 18% since 2011. Its viability ratio in 2015 was 6.9 to 1, and with the proposed bond issue, Bank Street's pro forma viability ratio would be 0.8 to 1, and it has a projected debt coverage ratio greater than 2 to 1 over the next 5 years. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Questions?
I didn't have any.
Ms. Jones? Could you just, the Interfaith Center of New York, what are they have a ground lease there, or?
Yeah, they are about to sign the lease. It hasn't been signed yet, but they expect it to be probably this week.
And that's their leasehold improvements, they're gonna finance it through this?
Yeah, they're going to finance about $3 million in improvements at that site.
It's a long-term lease. Yes.
Yeah, it would be for the length of the bonds.
I'm not sure it's a ground lease, though.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Anything else? None? Can I please get a motion to recommend approval at tomorrow's board meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. That motion carries. Last up for today is behind 7 at the top financing that Portia will present. Portia?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Behind tab 7 is the TELP financing on behalf of NYSOC in the amount of $20 million. As you know, it's a policy of the Public Authorities Control Board that financings that exceed $20 million require both PACB, which exceed $10 million, require both PACB and DASNY board approval. This is the first TELP authorization in calendar year 2016. There is an attached equipment list which shows the broad categories of investment that are, equipment investments that are expected by the various chapters of NISARC. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This doesn't go through health, right? I mean, the list,
No, for
does anybody
NISARC.
review the cost at all of the equipment or the vehicle, just to? Oh, it does, okay, thank you.
No, nobody does.
Make sure they're. Okay.
It's an unusual equipment listing because there's no specificity at all except categories. And normally we get to see more than this, but I've had a chance to ask Art about that. And
Okay.
what he said was that they don't know now, but he will know when they know if the money's going to be spent.
And we'll have to
Is
do-
that accurate?
That's accurate.
All right. That's what
But we'll also, I mean, tax council will have to know exactly what they're financing, and we'll have to do TEFRA notices that
Okay.
describe what we're financing and where it'll be located. What we do for NISARC is a little different under the TELP program than what we do for other borrowers, is they'll sort of do this in a number of transactions over the course of time.
Oh, I see.
So we'll get our board approval and PACV approval in the $20 million amount, and then over time.
They'll draw, it's like a drawdown on the
Yeah.
20.
Do they overlap, Debbie? Might we approve another NISARC
I don't know.
leasing effort before they've spent all the money over this?
Do you know, Art?
Generally does
It
not.
has never happened in the past.
Okay.
We always use the authorization before, this one before, presenting a new one.
Okay, thanks, Art.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Get a motion to recommend approval for board meeting?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Any other questions, concerns for anybody? Hearing none. Please get a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. That motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you.
You can keep the muscle.
Well, I'm not gonna take them with me. So I'll give it back.
Michael, is there anything